Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Shannon Paterson. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Now I just completely blanked on how we met. Wow, I'm going to have Greg fix this.
We met through
He's my
Dara.
editor.
Dara
That's right.
Goldberg.
That's right. All right. Wait. Let's start this over again. All right.
Okay. And you are fuzzy. As soon as you started recording, you got fuzzy, but I
Yeah,
can hear you fine.
you're fuzzy too, but
Okay.
It won't be fuzzy on the end recording, and the audio is still clear. All right. So
We can start
welcome to Fine. What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. We're starting over here, Greg. Welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Shannon Paterson. Shannon and I were introduced by episode, I don't remember what episode it was. It was back one of the first ones, episode 2, I think, maybe 1 or 2. Dara Goldberg introduced us. So I'm so excited that you're on my show now. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lori. Yeah, Dara and I work together. We met through Clubhouse, and we have a common mission, which is to really elevate and celebrate women in midlife. And she started a brand called Love in Midlife. So I am working with her on that, as well as my own branding with Live Your Truth Women. So it's just been a fantastic connection.
Yeah, actually, that's how Dara and I met too, was through Clubhouse. And ironically, I'm hardly ever on Clubhouse anymore now. But yes, great platform. So let's start where I ask all of my guests, because I'm just so curious as to like what inspired you to become the person you have become. What were the values and beliefs that were instilled in you as a child that contributed to you becoming who you became in adulthood?
I love this question so much. And I there's multifaceted answers to this, because I think it's not just one thing. But for me, when I think about let's call them the top 3, communication in my family was next to zero. My mom and dad divorced when I was 3, I was very young, and both sides of the family came from, my dad was military, and my mom came from a farming community where you were very stoic people and you just did the work and you just sucked it up and you didn't talk about your feelings and you didn't have any kind of, not only just no talk, but no PDA, no none of that. But you knew that they loved you. Like that was just expected, that you knew that. And later in life and even through childhood, that inability to communicate in a very open, non-surface level way was, I didn't even know that it existed, that you could actually have those kinds of deep conversations and deep analytical, of self, and how that opens you up to being able to have amazing friendships and relationships later in life. So I went through, my childhood and going into starting to date and then getting married, in completely incapable of being vulnerable and being able to talk to people about how I felt, because I didn't know how I felt, quite honestly. I had never taken the time to really think about be self-aware. That for me, I never did that because I didn't have it role modeled for me. My family was about doing, right? And
Right.
you work
So
hard, you
human
put your
doing
nose to
as
the
opposed to
grindstone.
being.
Right.
Yep.
So, when I talk to my clients about, what are these steps of, uh, first is awareness, second is acceptance, and third is action. I was in action most of my life, always in action. And that impeded my progress in being able to have really deep relationships with people, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know what was important to me or who deep down that I was. So that's what I really try to help women dig down to, that place, And that's
Mm-hmm.
often, I did a room yesterday actually in Clubhouse on self-love. And just the title alone, self-love tips and tools, it was flooded with women. And it wasn't
Wow.
like, let me tell you how to do it, sister. It wasn't that. It was, I don't even understand this concept. Can you explain it to me? How do I get it? I want it, but I don't know how to get it. And that
Mm-hmm.
to me is, it's so common and I can get it because
Yeah.
I've been there.
Right. Like to me, that's the real pandemic, is that we don't love ourselves. We don't even understand what that means. And in the past few months, I've been exposed to a part of my mastermind and one of my mentors talking about telling yourself that you're proud of yourself. Oh my gosh, the first time somebody suggested I do that, I burst into tears. That's so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I have been proud of things that I have done. Like I set this
Mm-hmm.
goal, I met this goal, I'm proud of reaching that goal. That's my action. That's my actiony stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so caught up in all of that that I could never really say I was proud of the inner me, the person
Right.
who I never took the time to nurture and grow and figure out how I could be more, how I could just, bring in more light and love. And that was where I was stuck, is in
Yeah.
the like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, I'm going to sign up for this race, I'm going to do this race, and then I'm going to, go do this other thing, and then I'm going to do this business, and then I'm, like, that's just go all the time.
Right. Right. So before you understood that about yourself, what was the result of that belief of all action, no feelings? What kind of situations
Well,
did you find yourself in?
there's multiple situations, right? So I think the first situation was, I had this identity that I was trying to put out into the universe of someone who was very strong physically, mentally. I was tough. I was willing to do, scary things. Like I did Ironman and I moved 3,000 miles across country to go to college. And I, did all these things that seemingly were strong. And I was
Mm-hmm.
really protective of that identity. I was also, being 48 years old, in the era where women had to be more masculine to make it in the workplace. You had to, push down emotion. You didn't let people in. And what I realized is that wasn't serving me,
Mm-hmm.
by not allowing myself to be an emotional being that I am as a female, that I was pushing people away and I wasn't able to really have the kinds of relationships with women or men that I I so wanted. I wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounding myself with people, but I was still very guarded. And for me, I've spent my whole life being a personal trainer and an athletic coach. And through the years of personal training, as you can imagine, your personal trainer often becomes your therapist.
Mm-hmm.
People tell you all sorts of stuff. And I realized that when I opened up to those people and I shared my experiences, I let people in. That was like the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Starting, when I started working, is that like learning, like, oh, like I'm not the only one who feels this way. There's other women who seem to apparently like have it all going on, but then when they talk to me, they're having relationship problems, or they're, dealing with their kids, or their work is making them unhappy, whatever the case may be. And so having that start of how we could start talking there, because for me, exercise and barriers of what you're going to let people know about you, they start to come down.
Mm-hmm.
Movement somehow opens up your ability to share quite often too. I come from a running and triathlon background, so you're doing a lot of that kind of long distance training, and it just helps you like let that guard down. So that
Yeah, I
was
can
the
see how that would
first
be the
step.
case. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the first step, and then the bigger moments I think were, I've been married twice, And the first time I was only married for 2 years and I was embarrassed. I didn't talk to anybody about the fact that I was going to, do this divorce thing. I just held it all close to the vest because I was so worried that people were going to think that I was weak. Why can't you just like make that work? Right? What's wrong with
Mm.
you? All those things that you build up in your head as judgments.
Right,
And
right.
right. So, and I think a lot of
Well,
women go there.
d- did you have a belief that it was okay for other people to get divorced, but not you?
I absolutely didn't judge anyone for getting divorced, for sure. Yes, in answer to your question, the short answer is yes, because I felt like I should have known better. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the signs were there. I just blatantly ignored them because I really wasn't able to be self-aware enough to see my role in that relationship and how that just the dynamic didn't make sense. Not a bad guy, just
Yep.
didn't make sense. But I was going to force it because going
Right.
back to like, what did you grow up and what were the things that you learned growing up that impacted you later? I grew up being told life is hard. Everything you do is hard. Marriage is hard. Work is hard. Suck it up. Don't complain. Just be happy for whatever you've got.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I felt like I should have been able to do better in that first marriage. But the sad part for me is I left that marriage and learned nothing. Really. I
Okay.
didn't really learn anything about myself at that time, other than I didn't want to have that. I didn't think that was the right energy for me. So I went to a completely different energy, which was so I went from my stepdad, which was my first my first husband basically, to my dad as the second husband. And that's where I really started to realize what I was all about, why I was getting into these relationships that were so toxic,
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on how I could learn and grow from those. It's easy to like be mad and place blame and he did this to me and he's so horrible, but it really comes down to I had to come to terms with choices that I made and to not blame myself or shame myself, but to
Mm-hmm.
really try to dig deep into why. What was my why? Why did I do that? And that's where you have to go back and look at childhood experiences and all the things that you internalize over time that you don't even realize. And that's not a super comfortable journey, but I'm trying to really put that out into the universe with my empowerment coaching and with my Live Your Truth that let's talk about this, ladies. Let's normalize that everybody has things they wish they'd done differently. Doesn't make you a bad person. We were all doing the best we could at the time. But let's talk about the here and now and how we can, right this day, you can start today to delve in, to figure out, where that came from, the awareness piece. Then you go into the acceptance of, okay, yeah, if my best friend told me those things, I wouldn't think she was terrible or stupid or silly or
Mm-hmm.
crazy or any of the things we tell ourselves all the time, right? I would actually be very empathetic and probably try to build her up. So now I need to do that to me. I need that acceptance piece to be acceptance of me. Then
Right.
I can work on the action. But
Yeah.
don't put the action before all the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We a lot of times get it backwards. We just keep taking action. We want to action ourselves into being different as opposed to
Yes.
coming from the inside, working on that first, and then the outside changes because and
Right.
the actions that we take are changing. I was going to back up. Was there a specific what was the specific thing that triggered you going, okay, wait, I need to look at what's going on with me, what my part in this is?
It was actually a gradual progression in that marriage. There were like ridiculous numbers of red flags going into it that I just said, no, 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 I can do this. I can do anything. It's the harder, the better. I can do this. I can be the one to like connect with this person like no one else can, and all those things that you convince yourself of. And over time, it was a daily battle. And, from the person who came from a background where nobody talked to each other, nobody yelled, nobody screamed, nobody did any of those things, into a marriage where I was being yelled at very regularly. Let's call it
Mm-hmm.
several times a week. And being
Mm-hmm.
put in that kind of flight or fight path. For me, I
Yeah.
always wanted to run away. Um, that was a buildup of stress over time that I let myself be brainwashed into thinking that my health was deteriorating because of the other things I was doing in life. I was doing Ironman on a super high level competitive place. And my ex at the time was like, well, that's what happens when you do all these things and whatever. But what I had to really see is that I got shingles twice. I got pneumonia twice. I ended up with systematic itching to the point where I was laying on the floor, on my tile floor, buck naked, crying because I was itching from the inside out and I couldn't make it stop.
Oh, wow.
I got into a horrible bike accident where I literally woke up in the ER with a broken neck. And my ex husband at the time was like, you need to just suck it up. What's wrong with you? You're being so selfish
Wow.
about this whole broken neck thing. Why can't you take care of me? So that process over time,
Yeah. You started
when he
finally
start,
listening to the messages.
yeah, and it really came down to he started drinking very heavily.
Mm.
And that's when, again, I tried to be the one to fix everything. I went to Al-Anon and I did all these things, but I just realized that he wasn't going to change. And we say this all the time, that you can't change
Mm-hmm.
someone, because I
Right.
thought I could change enough to make it work because I had grown up with that ethic. And I realized that it was literally killing me. Like my
Mm-hmm.
health was deteriorating. I was becoming this shell of a person who just didn't share anything with anyone because I was so embarrassed and so um, I just felt stupid, quite honestly. I felt stupid that I had gotten myself into this situation. So the big aha moments that happened during that time is that I started to share my story with my friends. I started to be real and tell them I'm getting verbally abused. I'm sometimes getting physically abused. I'm I'm feeling that I need to make changes in my life, but I'm scared. And I sharing that was the big point of recognition for me that I had to talk. I
Mm-hmm.
had to get it out of my body so that I could process it and actually start to understand it. There's something about the power of the human voice, especially our own, when we let it out of our mouths. And that's why
Yes.
platforms like this with podcasting are so key for so many people as a way to really learn more and feel more comfortable putting that out into the universe. I'm sure you found
Yes.
that with doing these.
Yes. It's so important. I'm so glad that you brought up the idea of speaking your truth because, as we touched on a little bit earlier about feeling the emotions, and I have these conversations all the time about allowing ourselves to feel whatever it is we feel, if it's anger or fear or hurt, feeling the emotions because there's no way through them except through them. Like we have to feel it. And you're adding now to that whole concept of speaking it as well, speaking your truth. This is what's going on with me. And again, the only way through it is to speak it as opposed to hiding it.
Right. Because I feel like if we leave it inside, we go round and round in circles and we convince ourselves it's really not that bad. You're
Right.
making too much of this. Everything is fine, as you would say, right?
Everything
Or
is
we convince
fine.
ourselves. So that is why it was so important for me to start opening up and talking to other women, friends, and not looking for them to solve my problem, but
Correct.
I need you to listen to me because it will help me process. And
Yeah.
to their credit, no one said to me, what the hell is wrong with you? Why would you ever put up, get out now? Everybody understood that I needed to go through it on my own timeline,
Yes.
and just was there for me. And that's what's important, I think, when you're ready to start sharing with other women, is to find the women who aren't trying to fix your problem, who aren't going to tell you what to do, but are just there to be a sounding board so that you can figure out what you want to do, which is what coaching is all about too. As we coach
Yeah.
women, that's what we're there to do. Ask questions so that people have to answer those and go, oh, wow, I didn't really even realize I felt that way until you asked me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we do in my program too, in the Fuck Being Fine experience, about talking about uh, stop lying to yourself and stop compromising who you are. And
Right.
that's what, when you start speaking your truth, that's what you're doing.
Right. Which
And
is why I call it live your truth. Living your
right.
truth is speaking your truth too. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. And it's beautiful that you had friends that who would hold that space for you, because a lot of women may have friends, but not friends who necessarily know how to manage that conversation.
Right. And that's,
Again,
that's
why
part of
coaching is
my,
so different than just going to
mhm,
friends. Yeah.
yes. But my hope is that by having these kinds of podcasts and conversations on Clubhouse and other places, we can normalize that it is
Mm-hmm.
okay to just listen to other people. You don't have to, because women want to fix everything for each other because we love
Right.
each other, right? It comes from a place of beauty and love, usually, but
Yes.
that we as women have to be willing to put ourselves out there. There comes this point in when, like, midlife, where you're like, well, I have
Mm-hmm.
my friends. These are my friends, and now I don't really make close friends anymore. We put our own self-limiting beliefs on that like we can't do that anymore. But when in actuality, what's happening is we are just putting up barriers, putting up walls, and not being the one to be like, I'm going to come knock on your door like you did when you were 5. Hey, Lori, can you come out and play with me? We don't do that anymore when we're midlife. We think that
Mm-hmm.
somehow magically friends are going to fall from the sky, and that, that's how it works. But the real thing that I encourage women to do is to you be the risk taker. You go out there. If you find some woman's energy, like you just feel that, get in her space. Say, hey, I love your energy. I want to, like, how can we get to know each other better? Some
Yeah.
people may not vibe with you, and that's fine. But the reward of having the ones that do is, there's nothing better in life, in my opinion, than having those kinds of relationships that are so deep and so real. That's the true key to happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's so many women who are wanting to make friends and find it difficult to make friends at midlife. And yet there are so many ways to connect with people, like you're saying, like have that piece of, or allow yourself that moment of vulnerability to say, hey, I like your energy, I want to hang out with you, do you want to be my friend? Like, but most people are open to that because they're wanting the same thing. They're looking for it, not finding it, or not knowing where to find it. So if you say that to them, they're going to be open to it.
I think some people say that they want it, but like anything else in life, they'll be like, but I don't really have time to do that, or what. So they're already deprioritizing it, which that's a choice. That's a choice that you
Mm-hmm,
make. But I think
mm-hmm.
we do have to be real with ourselves in how important is it to you
Correct.
to develop those relationships. Because, like anything in life, you will find time and you will make space if it's important.
Yes. And is that, asking yourself, is that a protective mechanism? Like, I don't really have time because you're afraid they're going
Mm-hmm.
to say no. So you're already rationalizing, I don't have time for them anyway.
Right. You're already what ifing into the future. What if they don't like me? What if they do these? So
Yeah.
then if I just stay here in my safe space, I won't get
Right.
rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the case for all kinds of situations, not just making friends, but that's a great example of it.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked before in our pre-show chat, you said something about that you have stopped worrying if people thought you were weird.
That's true.
I love that. How did you come to
Yeah.
that?
Honestly, I think because what I say with my second divorce, and that just like I just felt like I was so broken down for on such a deep level that I was going to come back. I was going to reincarnate as the real woman that I am. And if you resonate with me, come along, sister. And if you don't, that's okay. Not everybody has to like me. I'm okay with that now in midlife
Mm-hmm.
because, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women, I've wanted to like people please and I chameleoned my way through life like, oh, I can act like this so this person likes me instead of thinking about, do I like that person? Do I even
Yeah.
want that person in my life? So I think that for me, saying, here I am, this is me. I am not going to pretend to be something that I'm not. I'm going to tell you how it is because I want you to be real with me too. And you're going to attract, it's that law of attraction, right? We talk
Mm-hmm.
about that. It's for real. Since I have made that shift, I don't have toxic people in my life anymore. I
Yeah.
toxic friends. There might be family I can't get away from. But my
We all
friendships
have
are,
those.
yeah, my friendships are real. My relationships with, I'm engaged. I have a relationship with an amazing man who, is just on every level the perfect match for me. Not that he is in front of me, above me, any of those things. We are matched up. We are in sync. We equally bring joy to each other's
Mm-hmm.
lives
Mm-hmm.
because I realize that I deserve that. I want someone who loves me for me and that the
Yes.
same me respecting and loving him on that same level. And I just feel like for most of my life with most of my relationships, I was chosen. The guy said, I like you. And I'm like, oh, yay, somebody likes me. I'm going to like you back. Right?
Uh-huh.
Instead of being
Yeah.
like, listening to that gut intuition, that gut feeling of like, ooh, oh, but that's all right. He look at all these great qualities that he has that I'm,
Yeah. Yeah.
glossing
Get more
over.
excited that you got picked for the team
Yes,
than whether you wanted
exactly.
to be on the team.
Right, right. And that applies to female friendships too, right?
Sure.
So you you're trying to find your tribe, as we say, and it may take a couple of tries. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be, you don't have to stay friends with that person. You can move around to different tribes, try them out, see what works for you. And there's some friends who serve you for a season, right? A season of your life
Yeah.
where I've been in places where I was in a bad place mentally, like about beating up on myself. And so, what do you attract then? You attract those people that do that too. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there. And so, I'm attracting other women who either are where I am, or want to be there that I can serve and be like, come on, sister, grab my hand. I'm going to take you with me and we're going to do this.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I feel the same way that of being in that place. And the one other thing I wanted to add to the whole conversation about friendships is that no one person is going to serve everything. So you're going to have different types of friends potentially that serve different purposes in your life, or that you can have different conversations with, that not everybody is the same, I don't want to say level of friendship, but everybody has their different, I don't know, place in the circle, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But not everyone has to be your best friend. They can just
Right.
be your friend. And that's
Yeah.
good too. That's super
Yeah.
valuable.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have loved this conversation. Before we go, the one question you knew was coming: when you need to get energized and hyped up, what's the song you listen to?
So I knew you were going to ask me this. So I was on my Spotify yesterday. I'm like, which one? Because I have so many hype songs that I love because I'm a music person. Like I teach spinning classes and I've always been a dancer and I love music. And I was like, I wonder if Lori will let me have two. Because I was like, I can't decide between these two. But I'm going to give you just the one. The one that I narrowed it down to is by Andra Day, and it's called Rise Up. And I like
Yes.
her original version because they have a couple different kind of like, spiced up versions. Just the pure rawness of her voice. It just gives
Yes.
me, it starts slow, kind of like gets you in that vibe. And then it picks up and it's got that gospel feel. It just gets me in tune with like, I can rise up. I can rise up against any challenge any day. I've got this. I'm going to do it.
I love that song. That's such a good song. Thank you for sharing that. And now you know I'm going to ask you what the other one is.
Oh, good.
Because you can't leave me hanging like this.
Okay, so my other one, I don't know if you've heard it, and it's more of like a fun song. It's called Rising. Now I'm going to say it wrong. The Rising Flag. Now I have to look it up because I can't believe I just blew the whole title. But it's the whole message of it was actually from the Olympics originally, the last Olympics, not this one. And it talks about as I get older, I will get stronger. And I love that chorus because it goes along with the whole midlife movement that I'm doing with Dara, and how old doesn't mean passe. It doesn't mean we have to lay down and just accept anything. It actually means we're in this beautiful new place of wisdom and we
Uh-huh.
can really get better with age. I certainly feel like I have.
Okay. Do you remember who did the song?
I am going to look it up. Oh, I got it. Wavin',
Okay.
like no G on the end, Wavin'
Yep.
Flag, and it's the
Oh yeah, that's
Coca-Cola
what
remix. Yeah, and
okay.
it's if you really listen to the words, it was written for like a team, but I think of that team as my midlife women team. So when you listen to the
Mm-hmm.
song, think of that as you're listening to it, and it's very empowering.
Okay.
Sorry, I
All
blew the
right.
title for you.
No, it's all good. I have not heard that one, or if I have, I don't know it. So I'm going to have to go check that out now. And speaking of checking things out, so if people want to get in touch with you, continue a conversation, hear more about your program, get into one of your clubhouse rooms, how do they get in touch with you?
I'm on all my social media. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn is Live Your Truth Women. You can also find me on Clubhouse under, it's just my name, Shannon Paterson. And I hold lots of rooms there on female empowerment and female uplifting and having those beautiful conversations. And I also have a website, liveyourtruthco, as in company.com. And there's where you can find me. And any of those places you can DM me if you have questions or you want to talk about the kind of coaching services that I offer. I'm getting ready to roll out a program that is going to be a combination of fitness and the mental component of empowerment through self-love and self-discovery.
Sounds awesome. Thank you. I will put links to all of that in the show notes. Appreciate you
Thank you
joining
so
me
much,
here
Lori.
today, Shannon, on Fine is a Four-Letter Word.
Thank you, Lori. And I just want to say huge, huge kudos to you for what you're doing to elevate this message for women that we need to talk. We need to stop saying everything is fine and to really open up and just support each other. So thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, take care.
You too.